Okay, here we are for a special episode. Dani, why don't you take it away? Oh, wait. We don't have Dani here today for this episode, so excitingly, we have a guest host, which we've never done on this show. So I'm happily and lucky to introduce our guest host, Todd Tucker, the Tuck.
I mean, for the record, I think I look as good as Dani does, but I mean, your viewers and listeners may have a disagreement with that.
I think there might be a big disagreement, but you
so?
do look
All
good.
Right. Well, I
love the hat.
These are the things I tell myself in the dark of night that keep me going. But happy to be standing in for the wonderful Dani Crane, and thanks for the invite. And with my brother Todd.
So we have dual Todds here. So we have Todd Rosen from LAZ Parking. Senior Vice President, who's joined us today. So welcome, Todd.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Todd, for having me. Obviously, Dani, we miss you. Hope all is well.
Absolutely. And Dani, not only are you going to be totally late, so I'm going to have a lot of chips to play, right? Anyway, so happy to have Todd here. Obviously, this show has focused before on, we've told Alan's story. We had Tony DiPaolo on from LAZ. Was lucky to be able to be at his tournament, the golf tournament, and typically in the fall for charity. And we've talked a lot about LAZ, but I'm kind of excited about today because it's great to get we've got Todd's kind of come up through the way. Obviously, you transitioned from SB Plus, I think years ago. We worked together, and then you went over to LAZ. So it's great to get insiders that have had the opportunity to succeed in the organization, get promoted. And it's always great to get different perspectives from the inside. Obviously, we know how Alan feels and everybody else, but it's good to get other perspectives. So with that said, we always like to start with our guests, especially those in parking. How did you get into parking, Todd?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think you look pretty good, so it shouldn't be in the dark.
We probably ought to indicate which Todd you're talking about.
I know.
The viewers are going to be like, which Todd is he talking about?
What is your nickname,
He's
Todd?
been talking about Rosen for the past 5 minutes.
You got to have a nickname.
I have a few, but I don't know if they're airworthy yet.
You just call me Tucker on this show.
I'm going to call you Tuck.
Yeah. There's too many we ought to have a special Todd in parking. Because there could be Todd Rosen, Todd Brocious, Todd.
I know, there's a lot of Todds.
Todd, there's like 10
we should have like
Todds.
A Todd summit.
Todd, unfortunately, you'll probably agree with this. My wife makes fun. It's usually the douchey guy in the movie, like Todd or Chad. So, unfortunately, we've got that name to carry.
But I think that we
balance it out, right? We're the cool Todds,
yeah, exactly.
right? Like,
that's right.
Everybody else thinks.
You like the sporting the ghost ring?
I do. My ghost ring tactical buddies would be happy to see that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, to answer your question, actually, June 6th was my 20th year in this business.
Wow.
And like most of you guys and most people, when men and women in this business, I started at the bottom 20 years ago, valet parking cars in Chicago.
Wow, valet.
Yeah, Lake Point Tower. It's the only.
I know that one real well.
It's the only building on the east side of Lakeshore Drive, and Navy Pier's right there. And that's how I got started. And how I got there was, I guess it's an interesting story. I graduated college and was supposed to be working for my father. He's an entrepreneur and had a warehouse that I was supposed to be working in. And
like fuck the warehouse.
Like most 22-year-olds, I just got out of college. I was entitled and probably a little spoiled and wasn't showing up for work. And there was a Sunday night, in 2005, and my parents sat me down for dinner and were like, "You got a college degree. It's time to be at work every day this week," yada, yada, yada. And went out on a Tuesday night and got absolutely annihilated with some of my buddies.
And, you got fired from the family business?
My dad was knocking on my apartment door. You can ask my roommate. He was a childhood friend of mine. My pops was knocking on the door. We answered it, and he was like, "I'm not paying your rent next month." You have a college degree.
Fired.
It's time to
You
grow
got
up.
fired from the family business. Oh my God.
I've never met your dad, but I instantly like your dad's style.
We're gonna bring this full circle in a minute. So fortunately, I went to college with a young woman at the time whose father was very high up at Standard Parking. She had gotten one of our other friends, a job, and we reached out to Jamie and asked, hey, can your dad get me an interview? I flew to Chicago. I interviewed with Robert Alva, who's one of the great Standard legacy leaders, who's been around. Roger Walters, who just I think just retired. And they gave me a shot. I moved to Chicago 2 weeks later. And
Okay.
that's how I got into this.
So you stumbled into parking like everybody else, and that's interesting.
I actually think it's interesting that I do believe there are people that are starting to plan careers in this industry because of the technology and sort of like all the opportunity. Like you see people coming out of college and they're like, I'm going to start a business in parking. Like that's a plan. The rest of us didn't plan to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I thought I was going to steal management experience for a year and go do something
That's
else.
exactly-
Once you get in, you get sucked in. That's for sure.
Yeah, and listen,
is
most
mob
people
land.
who know me very close. I'm very fortunate. This industry has provided me a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I say it every day. So here's the real question. So you stumble in, you get fired from the family business. You're now in parking. So you've been in it 20 years. So you've been at a lot of cocktail parties. You're now, I've met your wife, beautiful wife, Carly. So you guys are out and, you're out with friends coming up over the years. Tell us how you tell people what you do.
Yeah, it's that's a good one. I actually really enjoy looking people in the eyes and telling them I work in parking because I like the kind of
The reaction.
What do you do?
Watching the gears turn.
Exactly.
And the smoke come out of the ears.
Most people, I'm like, yeah, I sit in a booth and collect cash. Someone's got to do it.
So they either walk away really quick or they're intrigued. They probably say, "Oh, valet parking." That's everybody's first response.
It's weird. Like
It is weird.
Valet parking.
Yeah.
It is. So, so you've stuck with that from day one.
Yeah, it's been the only
Interesting.
industry in my whole professional career.
Yeah. So I was always, as I was younger, as most people know and listen, but I was in real estate. I would describe parking so it was cool.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of people going, parking?
The great Patrick Ryan, who works at LAZ, he's our EVP of innovation. If you guys, I think, know.
I know Patrick really
He used
well.
to have a story that he was in the toothpick sales business and would go into about this kind of wood and that kind of wood just to throw people off. So it's kind of interesting how different people do different things.
Right.
So now catch me up. There's so many titles and so many different positions you've moved through the years. Right now you're senior VP.
I'm a senior vice president of the Midwest and partner in the company. Yes.
Okay.
So
Partner's an important term there. too.
yeah. So when you were when was the pivotal moment when you said I'm here? So obviously you said I'm going to get some management experience and then I'm going to get the F out of here. When did you say to yourself, "Wow, okay, I'm in"?
Yeah, I would say probably I was in Chicago for about the first 8 years of my parking career, and then got promoted and relocated to Minneapolis. And I would say somewhere in that time, in the 2 years I was in Minnesota, really felt like it could be a career. And that's, I'd say, really when the trajectory of my career really took off. It was 2 years in Minneapolis, went to Philadelphia, was in Philly for about.
So you moved around.
I did, yeah. So Chris Sherman, moved me to Philadelphia. I was the regional VP.
Is there anyone that hasn't worked or worked with Chris Sherman? He's
Yeah.
good.
Shermanator.
Yeah. So, and then Laz recruited me away in 2016.
Okay, so you were there obviously when I was there, and so you were under Jim Wilhelm was there.
He was.
And
He
were
was
you
sick.
there with when Mark took over?
I was. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And so 2016, you traversed over to Laz. How did that look? What
Yeah.
made you want to leave SP? And it doesn't need to be personal, but just did you see?
Everyone that knows me, I give Standard Parking, which I'm going to refer to them as, a lot of credit. They hired me with no experience and gave me a chance. So I'm very thankful to all those people at that company because I wouldn't be here today without them. So
That's the right way to think
Right.
about it.
Absolutely.
like anything, sometimes it was almost 12 years and they were publicly traded, and as you guys know, that comes with a cost when you're working for a publicly traded organization. So I was getting the itch to kind of look to do something different, and I was actually really far down the path with a different operator to go to work for, and some things happened, and it was kind of like I'm not going to do that after those things unfolded. And one of our talent and acquisition folks sent me a message, and I'd say within 4.5, 5 weeks, I had signed an offer with LAZ, and really, was talking to Steve Gresh, talking to Tony DiPaolo, and then ultimately meeting with Mike Kuziak and Al, and I think we spent 2.5 hours in Al's office, me, him, and Kuz, and we probably talked parking for 10 minutes, and had told them a story of kind of why I was leaving, or why I kind of wanted to do something different, and Al could have responded however he wanted, and he stood up and gave me a hug and said, "I would have given you an innovation award at my company if you did that."
Wow.
And so I kind of knew that was home.
Yeah, they love the stories and hearing about, people. If you've ever been in an annual meeting, I mean, some of the stories are amazing.
A couple of those family reunions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I spent the first 6 months of my career, you guys can only imagine, side by side with Steve Gresh in his Dodge Ram driving all over the state of Ohio. So that was, you could probably do a whole episode just on that.
I would say, some people might say you've been pressurized. I would say you've been Gresherized.
Yeah, he's my brother.
So
I love Steve.
So did Steve live in Ohio?
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
Steve was our RVP of Ohio. He was getting on his way to bigger and better things and relocating to Hartford. I grew up in Columbus, so the recruiter had known or spotted on my LinkedIn that I was a member of my high school alumni association, and was like, "You want to move back to Ohio? We have this job."
Oh,
and so I replaced Steve as he moved to Hartford to ultimately get into his head of technology and president position that he's in today.
So you moved to Columbus.
Moved to Columbus.
And you was Tony. Did you report to Tony at that point?
Once I took over as the regional vice president, about 6 months in, I reported to Tony, and we've been together 8.5 years, and that guy and I will get in a foxhole together. He's my brother from another mother.
Yeah. So what were you before you got promoted to RVP?
At LAZ?
Yeah.
Senior VP, so he would be an RVP before.
Yeah, no, but he said he moved to Ohio and became the RVP.
At LAZ, we like to do things differently. So I think they called me GM of Ohio in the short term.
Okay.
Got me acclimated with the team and the culture, and then I became the RVP. Technically won 1 of 17, but it was probably about midway through 17 before Steve and I fully handed everything off.
So from an outsider's perspective, obviously LAZ is a partner of ours, and I've worked with LAZ. So I see and I talk to a lot of people, but I've never really had anybody on the show that from a different perspective. So you were a GM. What about, obviously you told the story about Al and your initial meeting with Kuz. What is it about LAZ that, obviously being at Standard, obviously you're appreciative, but what are the differences really that makes somebody want to stay there?
Yeah, and I've been assistant valet manager was my first job title, and I've done it all since where I'm at today. And I think the standard parking that we all knew was probably similar when it early on. I think what separates LAZ is we really do focus on people and helping people and encouraging people to be their best self, and allowing to do that, I think is really what is different. It's not just a plug in our marketing or on our proposals, like the boilerplate stuff. It's real. And I've got tons of stories in the 8.5 years I've been here where I had a valet, his mom was going through some situations. She didn't have health insurance. She couldn't afford the mental health medication she needed. I was able to pay for power of attorney for this valet, get her on our health insurance, and she ultimately got the medicine she needed, right? Like, that's, I think, what is different at LAZ and what attracted me with the stories. And then once I've been here, just seeing it, us being able to do those things, and unfortunate situations happen in people's lives, and the way we're able to, respond and show up and that, I think that's what's different. And so then people care because it becomes a family.
There is something to be said, at least from my perspective, because I've worked at SP Plus and obviously in ABM, but there's something to be said, and I've said this before. It's definitely, people always say, well, we do this, we do that. And some people, you can tell a company that goes through the motions. When you start looking on the inside and you I've had the privilege of going to the annual meeting. You start seeing some of the shows, or you start attending some of those things and seeing what they do for the people. It's definitely a walk the walk, talk the talk.
Sure.
And so it's definitely one of those things. I think this year there's a new slogan, people first, right? Is that new?
It is new. I mean, every year we come up with a different slogan. I would say that happens to be the 2025. And I think it was really getting back to our roots of where we were founded. Listen, we're a large company now, and it's tough to be in front of and get to know every single frontline hourly employee, which, the 4 founders used to do when we were a little bit smaller and regionalized. So I think it was getting back to those roots of what got us where we're at, the servant leadership mindset, and really putting those employees.
So how many locations do you oversee, and geographically, how big is your footprint? And then I would say, let's just start there.
Yeah. So the Midwest today is Colorado to Ohio, and as far south is Kentucky, Missouri, up to the Canadian border. There's 13 or 14 states we operate in today. It's about 3,000 employees. Locations obviously are an interesting thing in our business.
I know you're scared to say the number.
Yeah, no, it's a few thousand.
Oh, wow. That big. I didn't realize it was that much. That's huge.
No, sorry. Let me correct myself. It's probably like 900. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I got to correct. Yeah.
And how many employees does LAZ have nationwide or company-wide now? 25,000, something like that, probably?
Well, before our recent acquisition,
Which I was going to get to.
Oh, yeah. We're getting there.
It was probably in the 15,000 range, give or take, depending on the pay period with events. And I believe with Indigo coming on board, it's above 20,000.
Wow.
And I think it's over 5,000 locations now in North America.
Wow. So you've crossed the 4,000 mark. I asked Mark Bauman about, there seems to be this, I don't know what it is. It's, it's like that movie. What is that movie? A Few Good Men. And they're in the courtroom and they say, well, where's the manual to show you where the mess hall is? And well, it doesn't exist, but they still know where the mess hall is. For some reason, in parking, in the larger companies, it's like that 4,000 mark is, I know it was critical for Standard, especially after the merger. So
yeah, I wouldn't say
it's like an unwritten rule. You got to be, if you're over 4,000, you're like so you guys have 5,000?
When you count Canada, we were not over, I think we were a little under 4,000 probably before that.
I put you guys, I think, if my math's right, and you never really know, as you say, everybody's very close to the vest about it. I think that makes you number one.
That's the largest in North America,
I
for
believe
sure.
That's what is an accurate statement. And as I said, it kind of all varies, but yeah, listen, we're very fortunate. We're appreciative, and we're going to hopefully continue to keep growing.
So Indigo was actually a partner.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So it's kind of coming back a little full circle because Indigo was like I don't know. They were a partner. They were an equity partner.
You guys were all part of the Vinci.
And then LAZ bought the stock back, brought it back in. And Indigo got out, and now it's back.
Yeah, it sounded like they were, they're large in Europe, and I think they wanted to divest the Canadian business. And as you can only imagine, Al and Kuz do, they stay great friends and
of course
partners with whether you're a current partner or a former partner.
Bridges stay intact. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think relationships were there, and I think timing's everything, right? And it sounded like timing was right, and things worked out.
Yeah.
So
you.
Fortunate.
In your region has had some pretty big success here recently. You guys, I've been involved with the Denver airport going back to ABM, right?
That little old thing.
Yeah. And so I have, at one point way back when ABM had both the parking and the shuttle, but then that kind of went away for years. So you guys recently transitioned not only the parking, but then a year later or 6 months later?
It was a year, the shuttle operation.
And you transferred the shuttle. So that is mega. That's like Denver International is, for those of you who don't know, it's like 44,000 spaces. I think
Max Fuller, my great regional vice president of Colorado, said on a call day it's 56,000 parking spaces.
Yeah, so when I was there, and this goes back, but I think it was 44,000, and I know they've done a lot of They expanded
I think it's
some
top
of the
5 airport in the country, like in terms of emplanements.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's the largest parking operation in North America.
yeah, it definitely
from a revenue
is. It
standpoint.
was back then. It was 44,000. Now it sounds like that because they have built other garages. So
Sure.
50. What did you say?
I think 56,000 was the number I heard
So
this
this
morning.
used to
on
be
a
the
call.
kicker when I was on a plane and I would say I was in parking, and somebody would be an arrogant, you know what? I'd say, well, you know,
Well, you can't say we can't cuss on here.
an
Like,
arrogant asshole.
There you go.
Right. One of my one of my locations is 44,000 spaces, $20 million a month in revenue, right? And that was back in 2015. What is it now? It's got
If
to
you would
be.
have attended my client session at IPMI, you would know that our clients did a phenomenal little lunch and learn at IPMI. It's about 250 roughly in revenue right now.
So this was 20 million a month. So what is 250 divided by 12?
exactly what he just said.
It's 250 million a month.
A year.
A year.
Yeah, I was talking about a month.
Oh, a month. Yeah, it's about 20.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's up a
around the
little
same.
bit. They don't.
20,
They just
20.
restructured the rates a little bit, but they're they're
actually, I'm
phenomenal
probably-
people. They try to keep it.
I'm probably exaggerating a little bit. It was probably like 15 or 16.
God, I used to think I was important when I ran the Detroit airport with its little measly 10,000 spaces. This is a joke.
Yeah.
So that's quite a task because taking over the parking, it's a huge operation. I think between the two, at one point, it could be swiveled down now that it's all automated. There's not a lot of cashiers. But at one point, you had 250 employees on the parking side and about 250 on the shuttle side. So it was about 500 employees just in that one location. What is it? What is it now? 'Cause-
The shuttle side's about the same. The parking's down.
yeah, 'cause the
we
valet-
repurpose people to ambassadors and whatnot versus cashiers. So try to keep as many employees intact as we could. They're about 100 roughly. I'd say hourly employees on the parking side.
right.
So 350 plus maybe some, the
Yeah,
salary.
so the cashiers, and then they used to have valet east and west, which went away during COVID.
Yes.
And I don't think it's returned.
I don't
but-
think that would probably come back.
Yeah, and then you have the Westin.
Yeah, you can valet there. That's separate.
Right.
We're not a part of that.
Okay.
So what's next big for you here in Denver? Are you able to talk about anything interesting that?
You got any exclusives?
Yeah, can you give anybody?
Come
Can
on,
you
we
give the
like
viewers
to-
a,
we
listeners
like
a
to-
nugget of something they won't get anywhere else?
Yeah, we like to be the first to report.
Well,
here.
I mean, you touched on our growth here in Denver and specifically, and listen, I'd say it really started in 22 when the Kroenke Sports Entertainment gave us a shot at Ball Arena.
That's huge.
That was really the first large one. I think that really changed the trajectory of LAZ in Colorado in the last 3 years.
And then you got Coors Field.
Well, so the Kroenke contract came with Ball Arena and Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and then we got Empower Field, and then January 1 of this year we got Coors Field. So we are, I think, the first operator partner in the history to run all the major teams in the
So
city.
your team in Denver and obviously TD, you guys are just killing it because when you look at it, you've got the airport locked up, you got all the arenas, and then you still continue to grow. Like how do you manage that from a employee and it's just got to be a
We have a
nightmare.
phenomenal team. I mean, our RVP Max, who I referenced, have 3 awesome GMs. The airport has 2 GMs. That one runs parking, one runs the shuttle side. We've got HR locally, a lot of infrastructure, sales, and marketing. And I think that's another thing I'd say that differentiates us is in the regions. We put resources in. Corporate is there.
Company
Hartford's
within a company there. So to speak.
exactly. And we were at a meeting last week in Hartford, and we told our RVPs, you are the CEOs of the region, and they build a team, and myself and TD and the rest, we're just there to support them and remove roadblocks and help wherever we can. But it's building great teams.
That's a good mentality because the one thing I can say about ABM when I worked there, it was like you were an entrepreneur. As big as and I'm sure you can talk about this because you were there, but as big as ABM is, they operated like this was my business. When I was the branch manager in Denver, it was like it was my business.
Yeah, you owned it.
I did. I owned it. I could do certain things.
Very few operators, I think. Maybe that's not fair to say, but it's not a huge number of operators that sort of empower their leaders to do that. Like, and some may say it, but they they sort of they try to keep that centralized control and not really give you any empowerment, which ultimately limits your ability to do what you do. Like you want to hire somebody great like Todd Rosen, like take the brakes off, take the training wheels off, let him run, good things will happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's empowering people to be a leader and inspiring them to be a leader in their best self. I think that is, that's where our success is. We've got many great clients all over the state of Colorado and the city, and from 10 surface lots to parking garages and the airport, right? Everything in between. We're doing it. Shuttles, healthcare, hospitality. We're just very thankful. It's like we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here without these clients that put their faith in us.
What's the number one thing that stimulates you? I mean, obviously we're here to make money, and you've already talked about how great it is to work at LAZ and the LAZ family. But what's the one thing that really gets you out of bed every day? Is it sales? Is it managing operations? Is it finding new people? Is it training? Like, what's that one thing that like really defines how you sort of approach the business every day and keeps you where you're at and happy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that it's the satisfaction of watching people grow that are on my team, changing the trajectory of people's lives. Minimum wage here in Denver, $18 an hour employee who's now making $100,000, right? And like that person's family completely just changed the trajectory of their life. And I'd say that's what keeps me going. That's what motivates me today the most.
I love it. I love that.
Ding, ding,
Love that
ding,
answer.
ding, 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 ding. Right answer.
I like it. I love that answer.
But John, obviously you've gotten to know me well. You've been at my house.
Right.
Todd, we've known each other a long time. I think you ask anyone that knows me today, that they would probably tell you something very similar.
So by the way, not only was I was at his house, but Todd had a cookout, and it wasn't your normal. So everybody loves to go to the Benihana, right? And
Chop chop. My wife calls it chop chop.
And they cook in front of you, and the onion does a little, guts the
Little
chimney,
volcano.
and they're doing all that.
Catches the egg in his
So he has
in his
this.
hat.
He hires these people to come into his backyard, and they did that right in front of us.
Well, I'm pissed that I've never been invited to this chop chop event in Todd Rosen's backyard.
Not that they would ever hear, but I'll give a plug to Mile High Hibachi because they were a phenomenal company.
What do you mean they won't hear? Come on, they might hear.
They might.
Anyway, so that was fun, and then I proceeded to get my ass kicked in cornhole.
That was a fun night.
Yeah,
I'm glad you guys were able to make it.
Yeah.
So Todd, what do you do for fun? Like we talked a little bit about LAZ and business and the standard questions, but like who are you?
Yeah, that's philanthropy is very important to me. I'm married, don't have kids. My wife and I love to travel the world. She's my rock. Probably not where I'm at today without her. Golfing, skiing.
She was listening closely for that, by the
She
way.
is so much fun.
Mission
My
accomplished.
wife loves her.
Yeah, my wife. She's nuts in a good way. My wife is awesome.
Yeah.
She's the life of the party.
Yeah, she's so much fun.
My wife is totally sane.
Yeah.
For anyone listening.
But listen, golf. John and I have played many rounds together. Unfortunately, I'm on the shelf right now, not able to golf. But
Yeah, you had a shoulder injury.
I did. I fell at Steamboat. My rotator and my labrum were torn, and
I did. I went through that whole experience.
So
July 23rd, I'm going under the knife.
So I don't have and most people aren't going to believe this, but I don't have an injury. I've golfed once this year. One time, and that was Father's Day. My son-in-law took me out, and I have a sales bogey. That's what's been keeping me.
You're working your butt. You guys are growing like crazy. Obviously, the new Parallon rebrand and everything, and
So the sales bogey has taken my fucking golf game away, which
Meaning you're just obsessed with the sales
it's
goals?
just I enjoyed. I would at least go out one time a week, and we would go together. I'd go with people. I mean, Chris Connolly calls me all the time to
gotta
go,
make time
and
for
it's
that
like,
stuff. I feel like
I don't have time.
We're breaking John for all the
I
listeners.
know.
We're breaking him.
yeah, you got to do it. That's
Fucking hate
important.
it.
Hey, listen, my wife and I yesterday took half day off and went and did a little self-care at a spa in Evergreen, and I can tell you, I got out of bed this morning so much more refreshed.
I would say that in my later years here in my 50s, that's one thing I've learned is to take those self-care moments. I just don't care. I have to take my self-care moments. I know when it hits, and
I know what
everybody's
your
better for it.
self-care moments are.
Listen,
it's called Ghost Ring Tactical.
That's one of them.
Todd, for those Todd's moments in his what do we call it? Self-care moments.
Self-care moments.
His self-care moment is rolling around in the desert in a, what is that suit? Rolling around in the desert.
You're talking about the ghillie suit picture.
Yeah, the ghillie suit with a massive weapon shooting.
Sending lead downrange is one form of therapy.
Yeah.
I encourage people to seek all forms of therapy.
So I had the pleasure of going to the range with Todd a couple weeks ago, or Tuck. I don't want to confuse the two.
Confuse the Todds.
Yeah, and I had I got a weapon that Todd has because I saw his, and I was like, I gotta have that. And I, of course, I'm shooting it, and Todd comes up and goes, "What do you? Did you oil this thing?" I'm like, "Fuck it, I didn't oil shit."
Dust shooting out the side.
He proceeds to break the gun down and fucking oil the thing.
Of course he did.
Yeah, in a matter of seconds. And I'm like grinding at the bit to shoot it, and then he's like, "You're good to go." And I was like, "Okay."
A little bit of CLP for lubrication.
Yeah.
I want to come back to you though. You said the word philanthropy there, but you didn't extrapolate. Tell me about the philanthropy that you're into.
Yeah, I tell everyone. I wish in my 20s and probably early 30s, in my 40s now, I knew it was cool to give back and help out. And so, really, the last 8 to 10 years, I've really put people first and tried to help those less fortunate.
Is that because of the LAZ influence?
No,
or is it just
I would
something?
say
Partial. I'd be surprised if it wasn't partial.
it definitely partial. Being encouraged and allowed to do that. It's something I'd say was probably always in my DNA, but wasn't sure it was allowed. And everyone, Tony, everybody encourages me to do those things, and been able to sit on a few boards in different places and get out and volunteer and raise money and all sorts of different things, and helping those less fortunate. Myself personally, I'm in a very good position, thankfully, to this industry and what LAZ is afforded to myself and my wife. And there are those that aren't. And so I was joking. I was on a call with someone today, and they asked me a question. I said, "It doesn't matter. My problems are first world problems."
My wife and I use the same nomenclature, but I'm a selfish bastard compared to you, so it's good for you.
So
Good to hear that.
I want to get back to because I've actually seen. So when I got involved at Denver International, I wasn't a part of the transition at Standard. I wasn't, but I later went in. But Clint Joy, who's a friend of mine, who was the airport SVP at the time, they went through hell transitioning that from ABM, and so all these most people don't understand a transition of that size. So I think there were so many shitty things that went on, and it adds to the stress. It adds to the workload. They're not easy to do those transitions.
No, I mean, as you guys know, being on my side of the table, a lot of clients don't want to make changes because they don't want to go through that.
Right. I mean, I remember it was the furniture. We had to go buy all new furniture.
Just the procurement process is so painful, let alone when you actually award a contract to somebody new and have to actually hand off the keys.
Right.
That's and for 55,000 space operation. Good God.
Well, the office alone, I think, is 12,000 square feet. So just imagine you're transitioning, and on the night, you're going in there, and all of a sudden, the furniture's gone, and you've got a massive operation with that office is multiple offices. It's bigger than this office. Yeah. You know what I mean? Most people don't understand that. And then it's wow, computers, this. There's so many moving parts to that transition.
It was a company-wide full support. Our service lines, Rick Ingram, who runs our airports, his team leaning in, other regions sending people. I mean, it was a full force task force situation, people up in hotels for weeks at a time, prepping before. But,
you got cars. You got cars, 12 or 13 cars
I think
to order.
Max spent 9 months procuring vehicles. Our client wanted a very specific SUV. I think that was at the time when, when the war started and the demand for vehicles was kind of in a challenge, and certain chips you couldn't get. So, I mean, we were digging everywhere you could think to find these SUVs and vehicles, but we made it work.
Yeah, it's a very complicated transition. It's unlike, so obviously what I think is pretty cool about LAZ is you guys don't have a separate operating airport division. Which is kind of cool.
Line.
So if you're commercial guys that are, obviously Max still oversees commercial, to talk about a Class A office building transition compared to that, it's bring it on. Like, we can do this in like 15 minutes. Not to downplay a Class A building, but it's nothing
I've
like.
often said if you can do a big box hotel and or a big airport, there's no parking challenge that you probably can't rise to after that.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is you guys locally have had a lot of major transitions.
We have.
Like, are you guys going to take, like, you and Max going to take like 3 months off?
No,
You
we're
certainly would
the
deserve
pedal
it.
is down, and we are still full go.
Really?
There are pockets of this great state that we're not in, or we want to get bigger in, and his territory also covers a couple other states. So, we're locked and loaded, and there's lots of opportunity in Colorado and Denver specifically.
Right.
No, but I want to hear Todd Rosen sort of get into some of his perspectives on the industry and like what trends you're seeing, what rumors you're hearing, what the gossip is, like where do you see things going?
I mean, we're just coming off the IPMI, so
I mean, it's prime gossip time.
Yeah, I obviously got to be very careful.
Sorry,
about
yeah.
What I say and don't say.
No, you don't. Have another beer. No, you don't.
I know.
There's no need to be careful. Al's not listening.
I'm telling you, I'm handcuffed. But when I can do this show and I'm not handcuffed, boy, it's going to be.
Yeah, can't wait to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, technology is a good thing. Obviously, Paraline's doing great things with their enforcement and AI vision cameras, and other people are doing that too. Disruption's good for anything, I would say. So, it's an interesting time. It's kind of like frictionless, non-frictionless, gated, non-gated, right? That's all the stuff that's going on. Everyone's trying
Where do you think that lands? I don't put you on the spot, but
no, listen, I am in the camp of if you've got $1 million behind a gate, any good operators, 1% to 2% slippage was typically the industry standard. So 99% of that revenue is hitting the bank. You remove the gate, or you don't have the gate engaged to the camera or whatever else, and people, Reddit, different things, word's going to spread. And where's the revenue go? It's going to go to a balance sheet. I would say, as you guys know,
It's going to go to AR.
It's going to go to AR, and the collection rate, I don't care how good you are across what I always say in the industry is 30, maybe 35% as a whole. And you don't have, in a lot of cities, we don't have teeth. You can't really collect that money. So I want a gate. There's obviously ways to make it easier and more functional. And we're trying hard. Most of our locations don't take cash, but you'd be surprised. There are still clients that are like, you got to take cash, or you got to have a T2 machine in our surface lot. So, we're fighting through it all, but I think that ultimately it's an experience where your phone is probably the majority, or your license plate is the majority of what you're doing, and it's a not intrusive environment to get in and out easily. Yeah. The camera probably reads your plate.
So you bring up the same point that Mark Bauman, obviously Mark Bauman's mentioned several times on the show. Frictionless is convenient, but where do you get to the point? What Todd just made a great point. Where do you, in a garage atmosphere, obviously the evolution in surface lots was easy because cameras were added, it reduced labor. So you're still, and the problem with on the surface lot was your labor you couldn't cover the hours. So
yeah, it wasn't financial. It didn't make financial sense.
That's right. So the cameras revolutionized surface lots. There's no question about it. Anybody who's still checking manually is probably out of their mind.
We actually have some manual clients, so
or even
use our words carefully. Sometimes they have to for different reasons. They can't get power to the lot and all that. But you know
I get
what I mean.
it.
Yeah.
But I think my point here is there's another evolution that's gonna happen here. So right now, yes, there's the component where you're not locked in completely. Our industry is still being legitimized to be able to get credentials and things like that. Obviously, it's been going on for a long time. I think this is my prediction. There's another evolution that's going to happen that's going to change our industry to where there won't be a gate in the garage, and you can guarantee at least you'll get back to that 2% slippage.
Yeah, I think city regulation has to change. That's the ultimate situation. If we can get there with
I think
teeth.
It's ultimately going to come through partnerships with state, local,
I'd agree.
Municipalities, and I think there's going to be some kind of collaboration because I think cities want to get to a smart, frictionless environment themselves.
Your listeners can fact check me. There's a city in Canada, I think it's Toronto, but I could be wrong, But some city, they like change the laws and the regulations so the private operators have the same teeth as the city.
I think it was in Iowa. Idaho, Iowa, somewhere out there where they've started to change regulations.
Oh, somewhere in Canada has done it too.
I think where the model's going to go in the lower 48 or in the United States is municipalities are going to embrace what's going on with frictionless because it benefits them. And I think there's going to be a collaboration between the parking industry and municipalities. Obviously, in that collaboration, there's going to be some financial gain for the city. And those two are going to meet, and there's going to be collaboration, and then it's...
John, what are you talking about? The cities are only trying to do the right thing by people. They're not interested in more money.
Listen,
yeah, it's revenue neutral.
Oh, yeah, of
but
course.
when you
It's
close the
all
door,
about
it's
safety and
when you close the
customers.
door, it's not revenue neutral, and especially when you're doing furloughs and layoffs.
I was gonna say, I think we're all on, right? Like we're all just trying to have compliance at the end of the day. You
That's
don't walk
right.
into a bar and have a beer or a sandwich and walk out and not pay. You're
That's
on
right.
private property or in real estate. It has value.
Or you don't
Pay
get
the-
to come on and choose what you pay. Like,
Exactly.
well, I stayed for 3 hours, but I only paid for 2. What do you mean?
I love the. Well, yeah, I know I went over 30 minutes and I didn't pay, but this is ridiculous what you're charging.
Same person,
I've talked
I wonder
about
if the
that.
same person goes into CVS and says, I'm going to buy that deodorant, but I only want to pay you $5 for it, not $7, even though it's marked at $7. So I'm leaving with this. Here's your $5. And they...
And here's what I think you should be charging. That's the mentality.
That's exactly right.
I'm not paying this. I don't understand your business at all, but I think you should charge this. Well, you don't know shit about what goes into getting that compliance, getting people to pay.
Well,
those.
that's on us a little bit to educate, to continue to educate. I mean, the industry, not just us, but in lots of places, technology in our industry and others have rapidly outpaced what the regulators, whether it's the FTC or the Department of Transportation or state AGs, they just it's too complicated. I mean, we talk to AGs all the time. They deer in the headlights sometimes, not insulting anybody. It's just they don't live in it every day and see all the moving parts. It's not just like pulling a car into between two painted lines
That's
on the
right.
ground. It's
And
a lot more
I will say
complicated.
directly in the camera, nobody understands the economics going into trying to chase people. So yeah, the notice is this amount because you don't understand the cost, but I do. And at the end of the day, we're a for-profit business. So you're not, again, municipalities are revenue neutral. So yeah, they charge me $15 for the.
It's like any
for
other
the
business.
ticket.
They're providing a service. You got to pay for it.
I want to do
But
point.
municipalities are subsidized.
Yeah.
Remember that. They're subsidized by the taxpayer. So I hate it when people compare a municipal ticket to a private ticket because a private notice. There's no comparison because we're not subsidized by the taxpayer.
I want to ask Todd Rosen a question because he said about, and I don't agree with. I don't.
We're getting good now.
I don't disagree with what you said about. Well, I've got this gate, and if you take it down, then the compliance goes down, and it becomes AR, and now I got to chase it. The same factor applies in a toll booth, and somehow we've removed all of the gates from toll booths. Like moved on that's billions.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I mean,
So
look, Todd and LAZ are very innovation forward companies and people, and so I'm just curious.
So I can tell
I
you-
think that's like a counterpoint that I'm trying to. I don't know what the answer is.
So the tolling industry is very powerful. So we have a toll road, C470, E470. So what happens is because of their partnership, their public-private partnership with the state, if I don't pay my toll tickets, they've been doing it on the East Coast forever, but it's a registration hold.
So it's you got a bigger stick to smack
That's
with.
right.
Correct.
And that's what I'm talking is going to happen.
We don't have the stick yet.
We don't have it. And
It's
every
gonna-
city's different.
Trust
Some
me.
sticks have it. Some
Trust
states have
me,
it.
it's going to happen as municipalities start looking for revenue like they are now. They're going to start to realize that this is a partnership that they'll allow. I don't know what that partnership is, so I'm just telling you it will evolve. Our industry will evolve.
And that's where I would hope and we all would want to get to where, yes, if you don't need a gate as long as you are able to collect the revenue. And
So if there's 3 bullet points from your perspective, just 3, from somebody new listening, we may have a listener that's like, fuck parking. I'm just a facility manager. I'm not getting my opportunity. What is the 3 bullet points and the message that you could send to somebody that is younger in our industry, and they're deciding whether they should get the hell out or stay in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one is they got to let somebody know that, you know, they want to do more and they're willing to do more. I think sometimes, you know, we get lost in the rat race and you can't talk to everybody. So I think being able to express your voice and what your ultimate goals are long term, and then you can hopefully find a mentor or someone else to work with.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, listen, you got to continue to do the job and grind, right? I mean, proof's in the pudding, and I've always said cream's going to rise to the top at the end of the day. And there's, listen, the two of you, myself, there's probably thousands of people across the country where we started as assistant facility managers. And if you believe in the process, you know, anything's possible.
So what I heard I got 2 bullet points out of that. One is communication. I think the younger generation, because I employ younger generation, and I also pretty close with my daughter. She's my best friend, so turning 30, I think, this year. But the communication from the younger folks coming out of college, it's terrible.
Yeah, listen, every generation is different, right? And the 22 to 35, 40-year-old today is different than they were before. And I think you got to learn how to adapt and manage and lead them.
So that's a good point. So communication. So if you're out there, don't be afraid to communicate. Talk to your boss.
Or just work on communication skills in general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't rely on emails and texting. And
don't assume that people understand that you're you know. But then the other important message that I heard Todd say was hard work, which you're never going to get away from. And that's the other thing that some people struggle with. So make yourself known by going the extra mile, and eventually you're always noticed. Hard work.
Yeah, listen, that's...
Look for projects, ask, raise your hand, show you're interested, show you're hungry. Yeah.
But if you're
Exactly.
doing those projects, work hard and do it right and produce a product that your boss says, holy shit, man, this is freaking...
If your facility is running well, right, and you have time, I guarantee you there's another asset or assets in that market that needs help and support, whether it's a valet or a maintenance division or an event venue or a hotel. And like, that's what I did early on. You know, it sucked, but they'd bonus us out. I'd go work events, you know, Soldier Field, Toyota Park, and I learned the event business while I was running valet parking, and it's getting kind of my hands in different things. And that way you also make yourself, you know, more promotable by the more experience you have.
So what's the third bullet point?
I don't know. I think those are probably the main two. I mean, listen,
communication, hard work.
None of us are rocket scientists in this industry.
Come on, I am. No.
But you know, I just you do the right things, and you know, I think anything
Todd,
can happen.
You're an old Tuck. You're an old salt in this business. What's the third bullet point?
Oh God, I mean, you covered the top ones, right? Work hard, communicate, and
I got it. Don't steal. Sorry.
No, I got a good one.
Don't steal.
I think don't steal is, it's sad you have to say that, but there's always one out there that you will get
Can
caught,
you really
by the way.
steal today? It's more of a it's more of a tech steal, right?
Yeah.
So you probably create your own QR code when you're doing an event.
Your fake QR code.
Next
You know what
topic.
I mean?
Hey,
It's-
we don't want to give anyone ideas.
It's a different kind of stealing.
It doesn't work
today.
anymore.
I know, but there's a paper trail with that.
Well, that's why we have great partners like Paraline, because you guys help us catch that stuff.
I would say, honestly, I would say the last one is like fostering the right attitude, which is, again, hard for the younger generation. Like when people have an expectation of certain things, and just realizing that there is no one owes you anything, and I promise no one gets up every day and tries to figure out your problems for you. Like, you just own your own stuff, develop the right attitude, and be accountable.
So that's a good one. I would say having a defined goal and never losing sight of who you are. So I promote everyone in this organization to have your own brand, right? And so you get up every day. Yes, you're working for the company, but what do you want to get out of whatever you're doing? And never lose sight of that, right? So, and if your organization doesn't recognize over time, then you might outgrow that. And then, but other people will recognize that. And that's why I think it's so important for people to to develop over the years their own brand, right? I'm whoever I am, and you know, if you're not going to a show, you probably should pay your own way and take vacation and go to the show. I don't know, but that's just
Serve on
something
a committee, volunteer for
I've
something.
always believed in that because there's a lot of people like you that recognize, oh my God, this person over here for my competitor is such a hard worker. And if they don't recognize it, somebody else will, right?
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I think what I'd sum up what you just said is be authentic, be yourself.
That's right.
We talked about the gateless and all that. I'm just curious what other big ideas or trends you see from your vantage point in your region around technology and things that are adopting, like just to seed the cloud. Like, what do you think about EV? Is the EV what's the panic? Is it over?
Yeah, I don't have that crystal ball, but
like, what else do you see? Yeah, I'm just giving you ideas to talk about.
Yeah,
things like that.
I think
trends that are happening, trends that are failing.
What we run in, specifically to EV is, I think people want it, but a lot of as you guys know, city blocks, city grids can't handle it. Is it you got to put in a transformer and a backup generator and all these things, right? Like, does it make sense? Does it pencil? What are you charging per kilowatt? Certain places you can charge.
Catch on fire, burn my garage
Listen,
down.
I was at a lunch meeting today, and we got into a rabbit hole about EVs catching on fire, and it was like an aha moment of
Holy
probably
shit.
need a few SOPs and different things of like what fire extinguishers are in garages, and
Right.
we left that lunch with a bunch of action items of like, oh wow, we didn't even think about some of this stuff. So
That's
obviously a piece of it, but I don't know. I think there's a need. Obviously, people want to be green and do support the environment, and those things are important. And I think there is a space for EV, but I don't think we're all going to be driving electric cars anytime soon.
So Todd, who drove this shit drove me crazy. Who drove the smart city shit? Now, I call it shit because you had people talking about, oh, garages are going to turn into a multimodal
hub,
and we're gonna
They still talk about that.
Yeah,
by the
we're
way.
gonna reposition a garage to where there's just Ubers and Lyfts going in there, and it was like this big thing for a couple years at IPMI. It's such shit. As long as people like me are around and my generation, I kick tires. I like fucking cleaning my car. I'm not driving a stupid ass self-driving car that I share with my neighbors. Like, who came up with that shit?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as I said, there's a place, but I don't think we're there anytime soon.
We're not gonna be there for a while.
Yeah, and the other trends, I mean, right, we're all deep in conversations is, do you need a gate? Do you not need a gate? Yep. What's the camera playing? How do you enforce compliance? So I think, those things, obviously the cell phone continuing to be a piece of a transaction, a digital world.
I think
but that's obviously a little bit scary with our friends at Ticketmaster and some of that stuff that's going on, right? And they're ruining it for us. But, those things will work itself out. They always do.
I think it's connecting the car to the facility itself, which is what we're doing.
It's
right?
important, but John, you and I talk about this all the time. People park for 3 reasons: convenience, price, and some people park for safety.
That's right.
And so
I agree.
If it's in your dash,
And it's in that order too, by the way. He's right. Like,
and if it's in your
yeah.
dash, are you really going to park at garage A over garage B because it was in your dash? No, you're going to park because it's either cheaper or it's more convenient for your walk.
Yeah, when I say connect the car, I mean somebody holding a phone in the car, probably, right? I agree. I have GPS shit on some of my cars, and they're fancy ass shit. I never use the GPS in the car. What do I use in the car if I have to use GPS? My phone.
Right.
And it usually connects to the car. So there is GPS in my car, right, that I don't even use because I connect to Apple Play or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, listen, we have a partnership going on with Google, and there's a lot of our sites around the country now where you can look up the address, and if it's there potentially is a buy now option, so you can get a reservation. And I think that stuff continuing to evolve. How does it happen in the car versus on your cell phone or your web browser? I don't know, but sure, I think that moves the needle a little bit.
I should rephrase that: connecting the phone to the facility, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are Bluetooths out there. Some of them providers have where you can hit a button and it's going to vend the gate. Does it work? it usually works, but does it not work sometimes? Sometimes it doesn't
I
work.
like the start and stop concept because I want to get to a place where we don't issue any tickets.
Right.
Right. So, and we should get to a place where I drive into the facility and somehow it recognizes me. Maybe I'm not, we'll figure it out. It'll evolve. But eventually, once I do pay, of course, if I don't pay, then I'm going to get whatever I deserve. But if I drive in, I've registered before, and I can leave, I'm now in a situation where it's easier to communicate to me. So I'm at office building, my meeting went over, and all of a sudden it makes it nice and easy, and it says, hey, press this button and extend your time an hour.
There's
right?
proxies for this, right? I know I mean, when I lived in Chicago, I started to see the Amazon stores there where you just walk in, walk out, grab shit off the shelf, and there was no stopping at a cashier or anything. That was a pretty cool experience.
I think they shut those down.
I tried to steal now I see
There's some people that do that.
Well, now I see them where I was going with that is now I see them in the airports. I've seen some in major airports. So there's a proxy for that. Still the jury and verdict is still out. Like, is it where everybody goes, or is that just a fact?
I was in a meeting recently. That's a big thing in the event space and in Major League, all professional sports having their convenience store kind of things being frictionless like that. And this potential client I was talking to was at a venue doing some DD, and they went through. He said there were 7 guys, beers, snacks. It should have been $200 or $300, and the credit card got charged like $22. So I don't know how that's all
right.
So I have seen the self-service snack thing at the airport. What happens if I take a bag of chips and just include a Pepsi, but I don't scan the Pepsi and
I've penetration tested their security to see what would happen just because I wanted to see.
Yeah, I want to see.
It caught me trying to steal the pack of gum. Like, it's smart AI shit.
So what catches you? Does it ring and embarrass you? Or?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I know it's cameras happening. There's got to be some geolocation there. My phone's got to be pinging. It's got to be identifying me somehow.
So was a person come up to you and said, "Oh, you got the pack"?
No, I just got charged. Like I walked up and tried to back up to the shelf and just see if I could grab it and walk away, and the charge hit me in like 60 seconds.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Look, again, to the point you made earlier, like, am I going to seek those stores out? Like, is that lack of friction so important that I'll shop there over someplace down the street, especially if there's a price difference? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Everybody's driven by something different. I'm convenience.
I'm convenience too.
I'm not price driven by parking. I want to be right next to that fucking place.
I'm convenience in parking, but I'm price in other verticals and products and services.
That's right.
Right.
It just depends.
I'm not priced
I'm that guy
in
I'll drive to the Ace Hardware store right past 3 Home Depots just because I want to promote my local businesses more than I want to promote.
So
that.
you think Ace is a local business? That's a national chain.
Yeah, I know the guy.
I know the guy that owns
They
it.
got popcorn.
It feels like the hardware store from Tim the Toolman Taylor's era. So
it's just like grocery stores, right? Some people shop at Whole Foods, and some people shop at the local
Billy Bob's market.
Exactly.
If you're in West Virginia.
Again, I think all of our industry will evolve because I think there's going to be, in the next 2 years, there's going to be partnerships that are formed with municipalities that allow the private industry to reel in and get that back to where there isn't a gate. It will change the game. It will be treated just as tolls. And I think we're going through a new frontier right now where there's a lot of challenges to what's going on. But ultimately, I have faith. I said this to Jeff Karp a couple of years back. I'm like, we're going to a gateless frontier. He's like, we're not going there anytime soon. It's happening, and now it's evolving. It's people are doing it right now. So there's an experiment, and there's some folks in many different operators that I've talked to that are like, the gateless is going to go away, because it's not going to go away. It's going to evolve. That's my prediction, and it's going to evolve through the partnership, through the states, through municipal governments, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and listen, the operators, I'll refer to the operators that are still around. We got to band together and help fight some of this stuff together, I would say. There's enough business for all of us to eat and win-win. And myself and there are some competitors, I would say, feel the same way, that you need a human element. Like, we're not going to get rid of humans. And I think that's, it's going to change, but people, there's still people have to interact. People got to do things in this business.
I got a question because we're talking about the, I guess still
God,
talking
you
about
look comfortable over there.
I'm having a good
I
time.
like what you did with the mic, too.
You like what I did?
Damn.
Am I looking phallic here? Like
I already got a text from Dani going, what the fuck? You replaced me?
that Dani, there's no replacing you. I'm just doing a cheap impersonation for the moment. But no, I think it's interesting what you said about not being able to totally remove the human element. Two things that trouble me about that, because I do agree that like there has to be some sort of human element in there, but why are we even talking about gateless stuff or ungated operations? We're talking because the cost of labor is so crazy. This cost of maintaining that friendly face is out of control. And I mean, you've got states with minimum wages now that made more than when I was like in my 10th year of management, and they're a cashier.
That's right.
And then the second thing, not to interrupt you, but the second thing is, and again, my friends that are listening that are in the parks companies, the gated access control companies, that whole schematic has gotten so out of control. And so as an operator, a guy who deals with this shit every day, I'd wonder what he thinks about that, because the cost of maintaining gates, servicing them, the warranties, the never-ending service calls, the never-ending sort of, I mean, that coupled with the labor, I don't know how this doesn't continue to go forward. If you took those things away, I'd be like, oh, maybe gateless is a fad. But when they put those things in, like, that's hard money. What do you think of that? What do you think about that, Todd Rosen?
Valid points. It's a tough labor force. We're all competing to find good people and encourage them. You can start as a valet or a maintenance employee today and grow to be one of us, right? Because that's where sort of we were all at. And it's a challenge. I don't disagree. I think from the property management standpoint, not having broken gates when you have a location near entertainment nights and weekends and drunks are driving through gates, right? Like, that's a pain in the ass. So taking the gates away, you're not getting a call from your security company. Your property manager's not getting bothered on the weekend. Those are great things. I think until John's point, until we can make sure the money goes to the bank, the asset owner or the owner of the asset manager, or the owner of the real estate, they care about their bottom line. They care about the dollars in the bank, and we're not there yet. I think that's the thing.
I think it depends on where it's at in the demographics. I can see it in the data. It definitely makes a difference. If you're in Lodo, I'll just use Lodo because we're all familiar with it. But if you're in Lodo, yeah, it probably doesn't work because you're dealing with
right in the central business district in most cities where there might not be a lot of entertainment. It's kind of 9 to 5, office user, visitor.
It works.
It works.
Yeah. So I think
People
we're
that don't ram
close.
gates.
We're close to getting there. I think it's going to take, and I think we'll evolve.
Yeah, listen, John,
opinion.
the event world's trying to do it. We have a great site in Indiana with you guys as a partner, John, and we're learning a lot there, doing a lot of great case studies, and compliance is really high, right? But it takes a village, and listen, we still have people we have ambassadors in the lots. It's not run without humans. There's a small crew that walks around, and they do have a handheld on them if somebody can't figure out how to scan the sign or do whatever else they got to do, right? Or so
it's like grocery stores. Like you might have a lot less cashiers, but you still have a cashier there overseeing the 10 automated cashiers.
It's like the airport. I mean, 7 years ago, all those lanes across were filled with cashiers. Yeah, they're gone.
And listen, our look is we're purposing them. We're having them do other things because there is work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, one more trend. Any more trends? We feel like we've beaten the gateless to death. Maybe it's self-serving for me and John, but I'm just curious. Any other trends?
I don't know if it's a trend. I mean, obviously, kind of what's going on with Metropolis and what they're trying to do, right? Like, I think that's a disruptor, and so we got to figure out how to adapt.
Well, we have the antidote.
Shift. So
we have the antidote.
And we're right back to self-promotion.
You know what? I know Dani kind of because I don't self-promote on this show, but like the last 3 or 4 episodes, just because of what's going on, it comes up because it's such a popular topic. And so you bring up a great point. And, obviously there's antidotes out there that allow people to use their own QR code and start and stop with that same mentality. So there is an antidote.
Yeah, is there going to be other
that.
consolidation, right? Regional operators, do they try to cash in and can sell to us or somebody else, right? There's some companies have sold recently at some pretty big numbers and probably bigger than normal. So I think you probably have some regional companies thinking, maybe
Time
I
to
should
cash out.
Maybe I should take that check and go on my merry way, right?
That was
That's a
somebody
thing.
that wants market. They wanted to quick market share.
Yeah,
and
there's
that was their way
rumors.
in.
Guys who have been doing this a long time are doing different things today, and are they going to start their own things? Right? Like, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
There's never a dull day in this
Are
industry.
you and Tony starting your own thing?
Definitely not.
Nah, they'd lead LAZ.
I would say if Tony and I were ever to do anything different, it would be nowhere near the parking world. I could assure you that this is home.
So so Robert DeBurrow usually dresses up in the blue suit. Does he still do that? You guys give the jackets out?
Yeah, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at
But
the
I
family
didn't see.
reunion.
One year he was all in blue. I think it was the one in Hartford just before COVID.
Yeah, it's a custom sport coat that they give to the Hall of Fame member each year.
Okay, so how many Hall of Famers are there?
I probably should know that off the top of my head, but I don't know the exact number.
It's that's pretty cool.
Maybe 8 to 10, roughly. They've been doing it.
Okay, that's
Only 8 to 10 in the
Yeah,
That's
it
a
started.
very limited,
It started somewhat recently.
That's
a
pretty
newer
cool.
thing.
it's pretty cool.
Pictures
Yeah,
on the wall in the home office, and now they get a custom jacket. A lot of times, they surprise them, their family, their friends, depending on their situation, are there as a surprise, and then they're whisked away on a trip. I think one year the person had young kids, so they sent them to Disney, all expenses paid for a
cool.
week.
It's like the Hall of Fame. The yellow coat. Is it yellow or gold?
It's the green jacket if you're on the golf course. Like
It's kind of cool.
that's very
I
cool.
got to hang out with a gold jacket last night.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, you were telling me. Yeah,
Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis.
I
need to have
have
Terrell
Terrell
on.
or not, but
I need to have Terrell on this show. He's with CSU, my alumni.
I was fortunate enough to be at a wine tasting event, and the person that hosted it would probably make that happen for you, John.
Terrell, if you're listening, man, I had Mark Jackson on. Come on. Anyway,
he was a phenomenal human being. Great
yeah.
conversation.
What happened to him on the plane was just disgusting, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I don't know
what happened to him on the plane?
it was ridiculous. I don't know the whole thing, but he was like targeted as being a problem. Like he didn't do anything. It was ridiculous.
For
the listeners that don't have any idea what we're talking about,
You
including
could probably
me.
Google it, but
Something happened. He was sitting on an airplane. I don't even know the full story, but cell phone footage came out, right? The whole kind of.
Really?
Yeah, and they said he was. I mean, it was ridiculous when you look at it.
Well, hey, the small amount of time I got to spend with him last night, I can only speak highly of him.
He's a
class
great
act.
Oh yeah,
I
he's a
was
great
very
person.
fortunate.
Okay, so wrapping up, we take away parking's been good to you. Communication, we had 3 bullet points. Communication,
Working hard, being authentic.
working hard, and being authentic. So if you're listening, those are the messages. Communication, working hard. I've always been a believer. If you work hard, don't be the person that's asking for this and asking for that. You show that you're worth that, and people will. And if they don't, then that's where
You make tough
authentication
decisions.
and branding come in, because other people will recognize that. You recognize other workers that don't work for your organization, right? I mean,
of course.
you compete against them. You see, so that's a message. Other leaders of other companies see people that rise and cream of the crop.
You guys have
"Holy."
hired some phenomenal people that we were trying to get on our
Yeah.
team, so it's seen.
Yeah. So
What's your pet peeve? Your number one pet peeve? The nails on a chalkboard.
Oh, I got a few, but
Run through the list, my brother.
I do
I'll
have to
just give
say,
you
before
one.
he answers this, I can't believe we skimmed off the metropolis and all the issues that are going on, which is
I
probably
wasn't talking
good.
about issues. I'm just saying they're a disruptor, and we got to kind of figure out what
Yeah.
that looks like in the industry. I'm not there to talk about someone else. We all
I know.
Yeah.
I could go on for.
we all live in glass
but-
houses.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
But back
So,
to your pet
Your
peeves.
pet peeves.
Yeah. people putting stuff on my calendar without asking me. Just because I have an open window doesn't mean I'm
sending
free.
you an invite right after this meeting.
Well, you don't have to worry about that from me because
I guess that's
I
an
get
internal
told all
thing.
the time. When are you available? Well, why don't you just look at the calendar? It's so hard when you got 5 people that you're trying to schedule a meeting for. And
God.
It says, next Friday, 2 weeks from now, everybody's available. It's like, well, fuck, I don't have 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
So now you're going to get me all riled up because if I get one more meeting invite from you or Mike that has no respect for the fact that I already have a busy calendar,
So I proved to Kai last night that
at least you know how to do it.
No, but my phone didn't do it. So Kai went on his phone and it showed all the green spots. I didn't do it for my phone. So if Mike's listening, he'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm the worst."
I'm old school. Pick up the phone. Just call.
Just text me. Can I call?
Yeah, but what if there's 5 people
3?
you're trying to schedule a meeting with?
Yeah, well, I can have it up to date, but there's a pecking order at some point, right? Don't just throw things on people's calendars.
Are just fucking busy, man. You just gotta take it. All right, what's your other pet peeves?
I will say sending us email with no subject.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is. Who does that?
There are people out there that do that.
Oh my God, that is a pet peeve.
So yeah, that's
I agree.
So immediately after this, we both have to send him a meeting invite with no explanation
I'm gonna make
or
sure
title.
I don't include
in the
any
invite.
I'm sure I'm going to get blown up because of that.
Everybody listening, Todd Rosen at lazparking.com.
That is not my correct email, thankfully.
But
you guys are going to drive Tessa crazy.
Yeah, but you're on the LAZ website.
I am.
Yeah, so they can get a hold of you.
They probably can.
LAZ.com, baby.
I've got an amazing woman who helps support my crazy life, and she'll fend them off for me. I know that.
She's going to come to our house with torches and pitchforks.
Yeah.
All right, you said you had more. Is that your end of your pet peeve list?
Those are the first 2 that came to the top of my mind.
That's a good one.
He had those in his pocket ready to come out. Did you let him know there was going to be a pet peeve question?
No, I didn't. But that's actually a good one because that bothers me too. Somebody not putting a subject.
What's your number one pet peeve, John? I'm dying. I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
Wow.
It's got to be a long list. Just pick one.
I don't know. I've been doing that. I've been in this industry long enough. It's like I just wish people would be real.
Yeah.
Most people, say it like it is. Tell me.
I think my pet peeve is the person that looks like they might be interesting to add to my network, and then they immediately start spamming me within 2 seconds of accepting their LinkedIn invite.
That's actually good.
And it's okay to hit me once, but when they start hitting me every day,
and I noticed you didn't. I noticed you didn't respond. It's like, well, I don't even know you. I don't owe you a response.
There's a new thing. I don't know if you guys. I'm getting text messages via people from LinkedIn. I have no idea how my cell phone number is in there, so I have to figure that out. But
yeah,
I have too.
Nigerian prince trying to give you $1 million.
Yeah, or no, listen, I got a text last week that was like, so-and-so company, we're hiring $18 an hour in Iowa. And I'm like,
I get the same.
How did you get my cell phone number?
It's a scam.
Yeah.
So Todd, as we end here, how do you, when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, give us like a 3-word to describe the parking industry.
Exciting, challenging, and never dull.
That's pretty good. Exciting, challenging, and never dull. That's what I used to say. I could go from the mayor's office, being on a parking commission, to picking up shit in a stairwell in a parking garage.
And that's what I love about this business.
That's what I love about it.
I can talk to a frontline, part-time, minimum wage employee, and 10 minutes later, I'm talking to a $1 billion real estate developer, and you get to see every walk of life.
That's right.
That's pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
I called it executivitis. If you've got executivitis in this business, that's somebody who wants to sit behind the chair with the secretary. I guess it's kind of outdated. I'm showing my age now but
administrative assistant
all that shit, and you're behind your corner office. It's like, no, man, roll up your sleeves and get out. That's
every great leader I've ever known, whether it's in parking or not, are the same people that will get out there and and they'll talk to a janitor the same way they'll talk to the president of the United States, and they tend to even show more interest in the janitor.
Right.
You know what I mean? And know their family and know what drives them and know that so that's a lesson I learned a long time ago.
I did too.
And I think all of us that are the most successful are because we never forgot where we came from.
That's an excellent.
That's a
an
great
excellent
way
party
to
shot.
end. That's a great way to end the show. Say it again.
We never forgot where we came from.
Never forget where you came from, and thanks for tuning in. Todd, thanks for having
Todd Rosen.
And
Todd
Todd
Tucker.
And Tuck, thanks for being the guest host.
John Conway. Thank you very much, sir.